What's up, Pirate fans? Welcome to another episode of Hall Talk. I'm Kevin Hubler, and I'll be joined by my panel shortly when we break down topsy-turvy madness to this postseason college basketball. But first, let's get you caught up on how the rest of the Hall's team fared over the past week. Baseball traveled out to San Diego, where Joe Podoslenko earned a weekly Big East honor for the second straight week, this time the weekly honor roll after a 4 RBI weekend. Across the diamond, softball bounced back from 2 early losses on the bats of Lauren Fisher and Alex Walkden to finish 3-2 for the weekend. Finally, the Seton Hall men's swim team captured its first ever Big East championship over the weekend in Long Island. The team set numerous records as individuals, sealing the championship victory with a 400 freestyle relay record of 2 minutes and 58 seconds. We'll break down basketball's Big East tournaments next. This is Hall Talk. Welcome back into Hall Talk. It's time now to jump into Big East tournament talk. I'm joined now by my panelists, Bryant McInerney, Louis Olvera. Guys, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us, Kevin. It's finally spring break. Midterms are over with, and it's March Madness.
Oh, some people's midterms are over, not all. But anyway, jumping into Big East women's tournament.
Good luck, buddy.
8th seed in the tournament, the Seton Hall women's team is going this weekend out in Milwaukee. They'll take on Providence. Is this higher or lower than your expectations were coming into this season?
Well, it's technically lower than what the committee thought, and they placed them preseason in 7th. But 7th, 8th, 9th, I mean, it doesn't really matter. There's a bunch of teams that are tied for the same record in conference play. But if you were to ask me personally, I think it's right. I think Tony Bozzella got it right. Everyone was talking about how Tony Bozzella always gets his team higher than when they're ranked preseason-wise. But, I mean, it was a young squad, Kev. And he tried his best. The one thing that is concerning, though, is their longest winning streak was only 2 games. They had twice this season losses of 6 or more, including right now. They've lost 7 straight, guys. It doesn't really seem like they've lost 7 straight, but that's the case, and it's not the right time to go into a postseason tournament losing 7 straight.
I'd say higher. I'm going to disagree with Lewis here. I'm going to say higher only because even though it's a Bozzella team and we know how good he's been with this program, he's brought in the people from Iona. He's brought in so many people to come in here transfer-wise. He's done it all. But you know what? You can't lose that much depth and expect to come in a strong year. And you know what? He's really turned the team.
I mean, they weren't all new players. Well, yes, they're young, but you have some sophomores. I mean,
it's just
Kwani Jackson was there since last year.
They really don't have that much depth, though, in regards to having upperclassmen. And I have to say, he bred Kayla Hilaire. She's had a fantastic season.
Yeah,
he's really turned. He's really turned this team into something. If I had to say something, I thought they're going to be a 10. I thought they're going to be at the bottom of this whole entire conference, just because of how much they lost. And they for the first time since I've been here, they actually had people transfer out of Seton Hall in regards to the Birds from last year.
The 10 seed was Butler, and Seton Hall did lose to Butler.
They did lose to them, but you bring up Tony Bozzella teams. They're typically a strong defensive team.
Yep.
But over the past 7 games, they allowed 81 points. They only scored 57, including a struggle against Providence the last time these two teams played. What is it that led to the struggles that this team had at the end? Is it just being a young team?
Well, I just don't think they're finishing games. That's like the big problem. They're going into games, they're holding up pretty well for some of the games. They come in strong, but it's just that you don't have that upperclassman body that holds you strong throughout the game. That's my big thing. If you look at the stat numbers, it's very clear that they're not holding through in the fourth quarter.
Guys, we also have to remember Tony Bozzella did sit out some of their best players, especially for the senior weekend, you could say, especially senior night. Kayla Hilaire, I don't think she saw any minutes, and Kwani Jackson only had limited amounts. So that has to be a case. Whether it was some internal issues in the locker room, I can't comment on that. But that does have a huge part. I mean, they were the 2 highest scorers, the assist leaders, and so obviously that's going to result in losses.
So quickly now, your predictions for the tournament. They have a date with DePaul in the quarterfinals if they do get past Providence.
The Providence thing, Brian, I will say that they do have a chance, and I say this because, again, Tony Bozzella, he's had at least 1 win every time he goes into Big East tournament play, and it's not the first time he's in the first round, so yes, they split the series. The last time they played, Providence did beat Seton Hall, but they were both on home courts with the W's for each team. This is on neutral court. Seton Hall is 5-2 against Providence in a neutral court. So as a Seton Hall fan would expect, you hope that they could get the win. And it's honestly 50-50. It's up in the air. I will give them the victory, though. Against DePaul, that's a whole different story. I'm surprised if they, and I'm going to be harsh here, I'm surprised if they bought the return flight after Monday because DePaul is a scary team. No matter if it's in Chicago or Milwaukee, it's a tough team to beat.
I'm seeing a loss, as you were saying.
From the
before.
first round.
Yes, I'm seeing a loss against Providence. I'm just saying that because, one, what happens in tournaments? Upperclassmen teams win. And what also happens in tournaments? Teams that are on a hot streak win. Now, I'll go back to Kemba Walker back in the days when Kemba Walker led that UConn team. But that was a mediocre team that was led by a hot streak and by one player individually.
I mean, you can go even shorter and say Wyatt, but we're getting off topic.
But exactly. But a 5-game winning streak going into the tournament, I see some good things for them. So Providence women's basketball has really turned up their last couple of games in this year, and they're the top 3-point shooting team. That comes in a big deal. Upperclassmen, so I'm giving the win.
It's a tough game, Kevin.
It's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a tough tournament no matter what for Seton Hall women's basketball. Let's switch gears now. We'll go across the court. Seton Hall men's, they have their final regular season game coming up. This will be our last show before the Big East tournament, so we'll get into that a little bit. But first, the offense struggled against Georgetown. They had 3 stretches where they didn't have really the offense they needed. They had 3 stretches where it was 4 minutes or less. What do you guys see in the offense coming out of the Georgetown game? Do you think it's just a fluke?
Well, it hasn't been a fluke because this is happening all throughout the season. We've seen so many times that this team has struggled to keep the points going. As I was mentioning to you guys before, what do great teams have? Great teams have a player that they can rely on when they're struggling. Am I wrong about that?
No,
what did they
you're
have?
not wrong.
Well, last year they had Whitehead. When the minutes get chippy and your team's not getting the bucket, the ball in the bucket, what do? You give it to your big boy, you give it to him, and you expect 2 or 3 buckets to keep you in that game, keep it tight to avoid a run happening. And you know what? They don't have that play right now. And yes, Kadeem came in with all those expectations. And yes, we know how good Angel Delgado is, and Rodriguez comes in.
But here's the thing
really
with
don't have that play
When you
right
look
now.
at Isaiah, he was a player who, at the time, took a year to get adjusted to the point guard. It's the same thing with Kadeem right
Good
now.
point. Yeah, and that's the beauty of Seton Hall, and they discussed this after the Georgetown game where, I mean, Angel's, if he's averaging a double-double, you know he's going to have his part in scoring, but it's always Desi or Kadeem switching off, and it seems to be working at least in close games as well, where Seton Hall has won 7 games by a score of 1 possession. I mean, I don't know if that's a scary thing for Seton Hall fans and Coach Kevin Willard, or it could be a positive. I'm sure if you ask him to say if it's positive, he can make that work. But it's the beauty. I mean, they switch out and they hope to continue on to the Big East tournament. I don't think they're struggling offensively. I think it's more on the defensive side, Kevin.
Now, the only real standout or steady player that Seton Hall has been Angel Delgado. He's had 11 straight double-doubles. He's tied for the lead in double-doubles in the nation with Caleb Swanigan of Purdue. What has it been about Delgado that has been so consistent this year that he's not even in the running, really, not in the conversation for these national awards?
Kevin, you just see him, whether it's pregame, during the game, postgame. Bryant, you've been at the games. Yep. He is in the zone all the time, and then when you ask him postgame, he says he just wants to play hard. He wants to win no matter what. He tells his teammates in Georgetown, he got a little heated against his teammates, but it was for the positive result for the whole team. This guy is on a mission. This guy does not care who he's facing, whether it's a guy who's going to be recruited out of college or the worst team in college basketball. He wants his rebounds. He gets his rebounds, like you said, Kevin, with all those amazing stats. What is concerning with me is that I love how he doesn't get affected by being ignored by NCAA. I mean, Caleb Swanigan is in the votes for not only the best big man in college basketball, but also the best player overall. Yep. And Angel Delgado is matching him stride by stride, and one could argue that the Big East Conference is a lot tougher than the Big Ten.
It kind of matches the way this team likes to play, though, with that chip on their shoulder.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. You know, he comes in day out. It doesn't matter how tall you even are, too. You know, we have to remember, he's only 6'10", almost hitting up there.
It's short for his position,
Exactly.
You would think so.
So, you know, that's a big thing to mention, though, because he plays like a big man. You hear it every time anybody's calling the game. Angel Delgado goes in there. His footwork's impeccable. He knows how to get to the rim. And you know what? You can even Wilbur was talking about how he's even shocked, how he's not even in contention for anything. And they all come with that chip, though. They all, you know, if you read anything about Kadeem Carrington, he talks about all the time where he came from, how hard it was to get up to the spot he is. I believe it was Desi Rodriguez who was a center in high school.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. They come in with a hard chip on their shoulder, and they come to grind, game in, game out. And that's a perfect example of Ishmael Sanogo and Enzi, 2 other guys that grind hard.
Angel's going to have to be huge, not only to keep up with the stats, but also just in general against Butler, because it's a tough team they're going to be facing.
And you bring up Sanogo now. Yeah. He's a player who they're going to need for the defense against Butler. They take on a tough team in Butler now on Saturday.
It's going to be interesting how I'm fairly certain Sanogo will play. I don't think he'll start. It all depends on the flight. You know how it could swell up with the ankle.
Coach Willard talked about after
he did talk about that. He will have minutes, and he will surely have an impact. I mean, this guy is always in contention for Defensive Player of the month, week, year, whatever you want to call it. But in terms of just Butler in general, can this team get a victory? I don't know. Is that the worst thing? I don't think so either. Because, and Kevin, I know you'll introduce the whole tournament bracket thing in a little bit, but this Butler thing, I am not over-stressing about this game. Seton Hall has enough resume-building wins to not be all the way in, but they're in the tournament. If that's what you're concerned about, don't concern about it just yet.
Yeah. In regards to Butler, honestly, it's a tough one. It really is.
is.
You know,
It's going to be a tough one. I mean, Butler's 7-1 against Seton Hall over the past 8 games.
Butler is Seton Hall and Kevin Willard's kryptonite. We've all
Villanova's.
Seen it. Yeah,
And Villanova's
Yes, and
kryptonite.
Villanova's.
Yep.
They're everybody in the Big East kryptonite. All right, let's get into the Big East tournament and postseason play. Seton Hall right now, they can finish no lower than a 6. If they win, they'll be in the 4-5 game if they win over Butler. What were your expectations coming into the season? They were tied with Georgetown at 4. Is this where you expected them to finish up?
Brian, I'll let you go first.
That was kind of funny hearing Georgetown at 4.
Yeah,
Wow,
everyone thought that was hilarious.
Well, expectation-wise, you come off of such a high year like last year. I just thought my big problem with this team is the fact that they are an upperclassmen team. I love an upperclassmen team. Me and my family always talk about how upperclassmen teams go far because they hit their free throws, they play great defense, they know how to run time of possession. But you know what? I don't really see that with this team. They don't hit their free throws.
No.
They really don't know how to run the possession of the game, and they're usually chasing at some point in the game. So I expected them to be a top 3 team in this year. So I guess the 4 is right around the area, but I think they're lower than what they are, and especially because of the fact that Kadeem Carrington came with such a high momentum that people thought he was going to be the next Whitehead for this team, not overall in the whole NCAA. So I think they're lower than what the expectations really were.
Kevin, I don't really think I can answer what the expectation was and what I think how they ended up compared to my expectation, because anyone, and we've seen it all year, anyone in the Big East can beat anyone on any given day, especially when it's at Madison Square Garden. I don't need to give examples because we've all seen what's happened. Now, in terms of seeding, like I was saying earlier, is it the worst thing that Seton Hall loses against Butler? No. What does it mean? They get a 6th seed. What does that mean is they are away from Villanova. Guys, Seton Hall does not want to play Villanova. They've been outscored, outplayed, out-hustled, whatever you want to call it, every single time they play them this year. Mm-hmm. And Butler is this highest seed going second. They're a lock on the second. I know there's going to be a tournament on my face right now as it shows up so that the viewers can see what I'm talking about. But when you look at Seton Hall's potential matchups, if they're a 6th seed, is Creighton, Providence, Marquette. Marquette's on a little bit on a roll. They can be anyone in the country, as they showed it against Xavier, even though Xavier is really on a downside. You do not want to face Villanova before the final. You do not. No one wants to except for Butler, because Butler has just been on a roll. But I think it's a good thing if you play Butler right before the tournament. I think that kind of gives an advantage, or it helps out Willard and his coaching staff to prep up if they were to face him in the semifinals.
So now let's kind of merge the last 2 topics. Expectations for Big East tournament and the NCAA bubble. Obviously, Seton Hall, they're on the bubble right now. They're currently in, according to Joe Lenardi, at a 10 seed. But what does Seton Hall need to do in the Big East tournament to secure being in the tournament?
Just one win.
Definitely one.
One win
Yep.
will get you in. The Big East is finally.
How feasible do you see that being?
Depends on who they play.
In the first round, I don't know. I mean, who do you guys prefer, Marquette, Xavier, or Creighton? If they lose against Butler.
I'd prefer Marquette. Well, I'm actually, if anything, Xavier. Because how
Xavier's on a downside right now. Creighton is not the same. Yes, they kind of handled their injury issues.
Yeah, with Watson.
But
They won't see Xavier, though. They won't see Xavier. Xavier's locked in at the 7.
That's true, but
I would take Marquette because both times we played Marquette this year, we were winning. And not just winning, that we were controlling the entire tempo of the game. And when they came back, and like we were talking about before, what's going on with these big divots in the scoreboard where we're not scoring for 4 or 5 minutes? We saw that against Marquette. They took us to overtime. Then we went to double overtime, and we almost had that game if we didn't have some foul trouble going on. I want to see Marquette. Marquette, that's my team I want to go against.
It's one win, Kevin. I think that's enough. The seeding will depend on the NCAA, but I think one win in the tournament is enough.
We'll find out that and more, obviously, with the game coming up on Saturday, and obviously the Big East tournament next week. We'll see where Seton Hall ends up. That's going to do it for us here on Hall Talk. For Bryant McInerney, Luis Olvera, I thank them for joining me. Catch us next week on Hall Talk.